I was a plot device, plain and simple. Transmigrated into the body of the villain in a trashy romance novel. My job was to torture the heroine only to be utterly destroyed by the hero in the final act. But the moment I saw Claire Miller huddled and trembling in the corner of the cavernous living room, my pre-written destiny hit a brick wall. This is where the story started to break. Version 1, 0, the original script. I was supposed to humiliate her, imprison her, and force her to be the stand-in for a long-lost love. My reality. You hungry? I can make you some soup or something. Who did this to you? Give me a name and I'll break their legs. Don't be scared. How about you now? Version 2. 0. The unforeseen rewrite. She was supposed to descend into darkness. Her hardening until she finally killed me. The monster who tormented her. What actually happened? Ethan. Honey, who is this woman texting you? She asks, smiling while casually holding a kitchen knife. If you even think about leaving me, I'll burn this whole world to the ground. I promise. When Ethan Hawthorne came to, he was lying in a king-sized bed that felt like a cloud, the air thick with a faint, expensive scent of sandalwood. Where am I? He muttered, rubbing his temples as a flood of unfamiliar memories crashed into his mind. He was Ethan Hawthorne, the infamous second son of the Hawthorne dynasty and the designated villain in a novel titled The CEO's Substitute Bride. In the original story, his obsession with the heroine Claire Miller led him to commit a series of heinous acts against her. His reign of terror was finally cut short by the hero, his own older brother, the domineering CEO Leo Hawthorne, who left him ruined and his family name in tatters. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm the bad guy. Ethan stared at the reflection in a full-length mirror. It was his own face from his previous life. Handsome, but now shadowed with a brooding, sinister edge. He wanted to cry, but no tears came. Worse, he'd been dropped into the story at a critical moment. Claire Miller had just been sold off by her cruel stepmother to Leo Hawthorne to serve as a substitute for a past lover. And the original Ethan was about to make his first terrible move. Okay, deep breaths. When in Rome, Ethan sighed. But there's no way I'm following that script to a tragic end. If I know the plot, I could change it. Just then, a crisp voice came from outside the door. Mr. Ethan, Ms. Miller has arrived. She is waiting for you in the living room. Ethan's heart gave a lurch. Claire Miller, the so-called tragically broken beauty of the story. Right now, she would be at her most vulnerable. The book described her as a girl whose childhood trauma and stepmother's abuse had made her intensely sensitive and fragile. Yet beneath it all lay a twisted, obsessive streak. Coming, Ethan said, straightening his shirt and heading for the living room, his mind racing. There, on the edge of a massive white sofa, sat a small, delicate girl. Her head bowed so low her chin nearly touched her chest. She wore a faded floral dress that had seen better days, and she looked so thin that a strong gust of wind might carry her away. Claire? Ethan asked, his voice softer than he had intended. The girl's head shot up, revealing a face as exquisitely carved as a porcelain doll's. Her eyes were huge and luminous, but they were filled with a raw animal fear. You're Mr. Hawthorne. Claire's voice was a whisper, and her body trembled. Seeing her like that, a wave of protectiveness washed over Ethan, completely derailing any lingering echo of the villain he was supposed to be. This girl, who the novel promised would one day transform into an obsessive, knife-wielding Yandra, just looked like a terrified kid who'd been hurt one too many times. You don't have to be afraid, Ethan said, making a conscious effort to keep his tone gentle. I'm not going to hurt you. Claire stared at him, stunned. This wasn't what she had been led to expect. The monster she'd been warned about was supposed to be monstrous. You really won't hurt me? She asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. Of course not. Ethan sat down on the armchair across from her, creating a safe distance. Are you hungry? I can have someone get you something to eat. Claire's eyes widened as if he'd just offered her the moon. She bit her lip and whispered, I'm not hungry. But her stomach chose that exact moment to betray her with a loud rumbling growl. GRL. A deep crimson blush spread across her face, and she looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. Sounds like your stomach is more honest than you are. Alfred, he called to the butler. Could you have the kitchen prepare something light? A soup and a salad, maybe. Right away, Mr. Ethan. Once the butler had gone, a heavy silence fell over the room again. Claire lowered her head, nervously, twisting the hem of her dress, her body rigid with tension. "Claire, you don't have to be so tense," Ethan said softly. "I know you're in a tough spot right now, but I'm not your enemy." But my stepmother said. Claire's voice trailed off into a choked whisper. "What did she say?" she said. "She said I had to be at your beck and call here. That if I made you unhappy, I'd be thrown out." Tears welled in her eyes, "and I have nowhere else to go." Her words were a punch to the gut. Ethan remembered that part of the novel. Claire's stepmother had essentially sold her to the Hawthorns to settle a debt of $500,000 with no regard for what would happen to her. "That's complete bullshit," Ethan said, his voice firm. He leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "You're a person, Claire, not a piece of property. No one gets to decide your fate for you." Claire looked up, her eyes shining with a disbelieving glimmer. "Really? Really?" Ethan nodded. "And if you don't want to be here, I'll help you find a safe place to go." "No." Claire's reaction was sudden and fierce. "I can't leave. If I go, my stepmother will stick my dad with the death. It'll kill him." Ethan frowned. The original story mentioned that Claire's father, buried under a mountain of debt, eventually took his own life. It was one of the key events that shattered her psyche. "How much is the debt?" $500,000, Claire stammered. $500,000. For the Hawthorne family, it was pocket change. For a regular family like Claire's, it was a death sentence. "Okay, here's the deal." Ethan made a decision. "I'll pay off your father's debt. Then you'll be free." Claire's eyes went wide, her jaw slack. She looked as if she couldn't process what he just said. What did you say?" "I said, I'll take care of the debt," Ethan repeated calmly. "That way, you won't have to worry about your father, and you won't be trapped here." "But why?" Her expression was a mix of confusion and suspicion. "Why would you help me? I have nothing to give you." Looking at her innocent, heartbroken face, Ethan understood. This girl had been taught that every act of kindness was a transaction, a prelude to a demand. It was no wonder she was so broken. "Because frankly, watching you mope around is a total downer," Ethan said, putting on a gruff expression. "It's ruining the vibe in my ridiculously expensive house. It's easier to just solve the problem than to watch you look miserable all day." Claire stared at him for a second, then let out a tiny surprised laugh. The sound that was the first spark of light he'd seen from her. It was faint, but it was enough to illuminate the entire room. "You're really strange," she said softly, the guard in her eyes finally lowering a fraction. "What's so strange about me?" Ethan asked, finding annoyance. "Everyone said you were terrifying," she said, her voice earnest. "But I think you're a good person. You try to sound mean, but your eyes are kind." A warmth spread through Ethan's chest. This fragile girl, despite everything she'd been through, could still see the good in people. Just then, the butler returned with a tray. "Mr. Ethan, the food is ready." On the tray was a bowl of steaming chicken broth, a small fresh salad, and a few artfully arranged side dishes. It looked delicious. "Go on, eat," Ethan urged her. Claire hesitantly picked up a spoon and took a sip of the soup. The warmth slid down her throat and her eyes immediately filled with tears. "What's wrong? You don't like it?" Ethan asked, suddenly anxious. "No." Claire shook her head, her voice thick with emotion. It's been a very long time since anyone was this kind to me." Her words hit Ethan hard. Just how much pain had this girl endured to be moved to tears by a simple meal? "Well, you'd better get used to it," he said softly. "You deserve to be treated with kindness." She looked up at him and the light in her eyes grew brighter. "Mr. Hawthorne." "Just Ethan is fine." "Ethan." She tried the name out, a faint blush on her cheeks. "It sounds much better that way." Ethan smiled. "I agree. Now eat before it gets cold." Watching Claire eat, taking small, careful bites, Ethan felt a strange new purpose settle over him. Maybe saving someone started with something as simple as this. The next morning, Ethan was woken by a soft knock on his door. "Who is it?" "It's so early," he grumbled, pulling the door open. Claire was standing there, a tray in her hands. "Ethan, I made you breakfast," she said, her cheeks flushed and her eyes shining with hopeful anticipation. "I hope you like it." Ethan looked at the tray. It held 2 perfectly fried eggs, a few slices of toast, and a glass of milk. Simple, but clearly made with care. "What did you do all this?" "I got up as soon as it was light out," Claire said, looking a little shy. You were so good to me yesterday. I wanted to do something to thank you. Ethan looked at the tray. It held 2 perfectly fried eggs, a few slices of toast, and a glass of milk. Simple, but clearly made with care. You don't have to repay me for anything. I helped you because I wanted to, he said, taking a tray. But since you made it, I'm not going to say no. He took a bite of the eggs. They were surprisingly good. Wow, this is great. You're a good cook. Claire's face lit up, her eyes sparkling like stars. Really? You're not just saying that? Why would I lie? Ethan laughed. It's delicious. Do you cook a lot at home? CLA's expression dimmed. My stepmother. She said I was a freeloader and wouldn't let the housekeeper cook for me, so I learned to do it myself. Her stepmother again. A surge of anger rose in Ethan. How can anyone treat a child like that? Well, you don't have to cook anymore, he said gently. You're still a kid. You should be in school. How old are you anyway? 18, she answered quietly. I was a senior in high school, but I had to drop out when my dad got sick. 18. She should be worrying about prom and college applications, not bearing the weight of the world. Ethan's heart ached for her. Once we get this debt settled, you can go back to school, he said. Can I really? A flicker of hope lit her eyes, but it died just as quickly. But the tuition. Don't worry about tuition. I'll take care of it. But I already owe you so much. How could I ever pay you back? She fretted, biting her lip. Ethan put down his glass and looked at her seriously. Claire, I'm going to say this one more time. I'm not helping you so you can pay me back. I'm helping you because I want to. The only thing I want in return is for you to live a good life. Go to school, be happy. That's the best reward you could give me. But no buts, Ethan. And cut her off. The most important thing you need to do right now is to start believing that some people will be good to you for no reason at all. Claire just looked at him, her eyes slowly filling with tears. But this time, they weren't tears of fear or sadness. They were tears of gratitude. Ethan, she suddenly threw her arms around his waist, hugging him tightly. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me, for helping me. Feeling her small body tremble against his, Ethan gently stroked her back. Silly girl, don't cry. I'm here now. No one is ever going to hurt you again. Just then, he heard footsteps and voices approaching the room. Mr. Ethan should be in his room. We'll go right in. Yes, Mr. Leo. Ethan's face fell. That was Leo's voice. In the novel, Leo Hawthorne, the so-called hero, was no friend to his younger brother. In fact, he was deeply suspicious of him. Claire let go quickly, Ethan whispered. But she only clung to him tighter, a strange possessive light flashing in her eyes. No, you're all I have. The door swung open with a soft click. Leo stood there, flanked by a pair of bodyguards, his expression hardening into a thunderous scowl as he took in the scene. Ethan, what do you think you're doing? Leo's voice was as cold as a winter storm. Ethan cursed silently, but kept his composure. Leo, what brings you here? I came to make sure you weren't causing trouble for Miss Miller. Leo said, his sharp gaze cutting between them. And it looks like I got here just in time. Claire finally seemed to register the intrusion. She pulled back from Ethan, her face beet red. Hello, I'm Claire. Leo gave her a dismissive glance before turning back to his brother. You outside? We need to talk. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Ethan said, not wanting to leave Claire alone. He knew her well enough now to guess that his departure would send her spiraling into anxiety. I said outside now, Leo commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Ethan had no choice. He turned to Claire. I'll be right back. Just wait for me here. Okay. She nodded meekly, but her eyes were wide with fear. In the hallway, Leo got straight to the point. What did you do to her? I didn't do anything. Ethan said honestly. I was just taking care of her. Taking care of her? Leo scoffed. Ethan, since when did you grow a conscience? Knowing you, it's a miracle you haven't already locked her in the basement. Ethan sighed internally. His reputation as a villain was clearly well established. People can change, can't they? Besides, she's just a scared kid. I have no reason to hurt her. Is that so? Leo stepped closer, his presence intimidating. Then what was that hug about? She was scared. I was comforting her. Ethan explained. Leo, you're reading way too much into this. Leo stared at him for a long, hard moment, his eyes filled with suspicion. Finally, he spoke. Ethan, I'm warning you. Stay away from Claire Miller. She's part of my arrangement now. If you dare to touch her, I won't go easy on you. Your arrangement? Ethan's brow furrowed. Leo, she isn't an object. She has a right to choose for herself. A right to choose? Leo let out a cold, humorless laugh. Right now, what choice does she have other than to depend on the Hawthorne family? His words were realistic and brutal and true. In her current situation, Claire had almost no power. So, what are your plans for her? Ethan pressed. According to the contract, she stays here for 1 year. After that, I'll give her a sum of money and she can go live her own life, Leo said, his tone flat, as if discussing a business transaction. Ethan's heart sank, just as he thought. Even the hero of the story was at this stage a cold-blooded corporate shark who knew nothing about genuine compassion. And what if I told you I want to pay off her debt and set her free now? Leo paused. Then a smirk spread across his face. You, Ethan, don't play dumb with me. You just want to make her feel indebted to you so you can take advantage of her. That's not what I enough. Leo cut him off. I don't care what little game you're playing, Ethan. Player's situation is none of your business. You'd be wise to back off before you force my hand. With that, Leo turned and strode down the hall, leaving Ethan alone with his frustration. Ethan shook his head with a bitter smile. It seemed that saving Claire meant he'd have to fight the story's hero, too. But he wasn't about to give up. But looking at the fear and dependence in her eyes, Ethan suddenly realized that this girl had already attached herself to him deeply. Silly girl, why would I not want you around? He said gently. We're friends. Friends don't just disappear. Friends. Claire repeated the word, her expression unreadable. Just friends. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He sensed what she was getting at, but he knew it was too soon. She was still too fragile, just emerging from a lifetime of darkness. For now, we're friends, he said carefully. As for the future, who knows? At his words, a faint blush colored her cheeks and a sweet, hopeful light filled her eyes. Okay, I understand. Seeing her like that, Ethan felt a strange new emotion stir within him. This girl was quietly, insistently finding her way into his heart. A week later, just as promised, Ethan settled all of Claire's family debts. When she got the call confirming everything was paid off, she broke down sobbing. Dad, if you can see this from heaven, you don't have to worry about me anymore. The debt is gone, she cried, tears streaming down her face. After hanging up, she threw herself into Ethan's arms, holding him tight. Ethan, thank you. Thank you so much. I've told you 100 times. You don't have to thank me, he said, stroking her back. Seeing you happy makes me happy. Am I really free now? She asked, pulling back to look at him, her eyes still shining with disbelief. Completely and totally free, Ethan smiled. You can do whatever you want. Go wherever you want. Hearing this, however, her expression fell. So, does that mean I should leave now? Do you want to leave? Ethan asked her directly. She bit her lip. Her eyes filled with conflict. I don't know. This is your home. I don't want to be a burden by staying here. You're not a burden. Ethan said seriously. If you want, you can stay here as long as you like. I'll get the paperwork sorted for you to re-enroll in school. You can live here while you finish your studies. Can I really? Her eyes lit up instantly. Of course, he said, ruffling her hair. That way, I can look after you better. Claire's cheeks reened and a strange intensity entered her gaze. Ethan, you're so good to me. So, good scares me. Scares you? How? I'm scared this is all a dream. Scared that one day you'll get tired of me. Scared that? Her voice grew quieter. Scared that another woman will show up and take all of your attention away. That last sentence sent a chill down Ethan's spine. Was this the beginning of her obsessive? Yinder sighed. Silly girl. What are you talking about? He said, trying to keep his tone light. It's not like I'm some hot commodity women are fighting over. That's not true. Claire's voice was suddenly sharp. You're the best person in the world. Of course, other women will like you. So what if they do? Ethan looked her in the eye. There's only one person I'm interested in. Who? Who is it? She whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. Ethan, leaning close, his lips brushing her ear. She's a very sweet, very kind girl. Her name is Claire. Claire's face turned the color of a ripe tomato, and she looked like she might spontaneously combust. What? What are you saying? I'm telling the truth, Ethan said, pulling back to look at her. Seriously. Claire, I'm falling for you. His words hit her like a lightning bolt. She stared at him dumbfounded. You like me? She stammered. Yes, I do, Ethan confirmed. I think I started falling for you from the first moment I saw you smile. Tears streamed from her eyes again, but this time they were tears of pure joy. I like you, too. I think I started liking you the first time you were kind to me. They looked at each other, the air between them practically buzzing with unspoken emotion. So, where are we now? Claire asked in a small voice. What do you want us to be? He countered. I want to be your girlfriend, she said, summoning all her courage. Her face burning. Then we're boyfriend and girlfriend, Ethan said, reaching for her hand. Claire, will you be my girlfriend? Yes, she said without hesitation, her hand closing around his, her eyes shining with happiness. Yes, I will. But in the midst of this perfect, sweet moment, Claire's expression suddenly darkened. But Ethan, what is it? He asked, sensing a shift. If you ever stop liking me or if you fall for someone else. Her voice dropped and her fingers began to twist the fabric of her dress. I would be very, very sad. So sad that I might do something terrible. Ethan's blood ran cold. This was it. The warning sign, the shadow of the obsessive character she was in the original novel. Hey, he said, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. Once I choose you, I'm not looking at anyone else. But you have to remember, real love isn't about possession or control. It's about trust and respect. A flicker of conflict crossed her face. But no buts, Ethan said firmly. If you really like me, you have to learn to trust me. Otherwise, this will just become a cage for both of us. Claire stared at him, her expression unreadable for a long moment before she finally slowly nodded. I understand. I'll try to trust you, Ethan. That's the Claire I love, Ethan said, breathing a sigh of relief as he gently kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, I'll take you to the cemetery to visit your dad's grave. Then we'll go to the school and get you re-enrolled. Okay. Okay. She smiled, leaning into his embrace. But Ethan didn't see the look on her face as she rested her head on his shoulder. It was a look of possessive, almost pathological adoration, and her fingers were secretly clutching a piece of his shirt. Ethan is mine, she thought. A dark swirling current in her eyes forever and ever. After they made it official, Ethan noticed Claire's possessive tendencies becoming more pronounced. At first, it was just intense hostility toward any woman who happened to be near him. Soon, it escalated to her secretly checking his phone and his social media accounts. Ethan, who is this woman texting you? Claire asked, holding up his phone. The screen showed a work-related message from a female colleague. That's Ms. Davis from marketing. We're discussing the Q3 promotional strategy, Ethan explained patiently, reaching for his phone. Claire pulled it back, hiding it behind her. A dark cloud passed over her features. Why did she call you Ethan, dear? It's just a professional courtesy, a turn of phrase. Ethan sighed, moving closer. CLA, we talked about this. We have to trust each other. She bit her lower lip, tears welling in her eyes. I know, but I can't control it. I'm so scared of losing you. Ethan pulled her into a hug, stroking her hair. You won't. I'm always here. This conversation became a near weekly ritual. Ethan knew it was a symptom of her deep-seated insecurity, something he could only combat with endless patience and reassurance. One night, Ethan was jolted awake by a skull-splitting headache. He opened his eyes and saw the walls of his bedroom turning translucent, the city skyline outside his window dissolving like an image being erased. Is the world falling apart? He sat up abruptly as a new stream of information flooded his brain. This world was just a fictional construct, a virtual space built by a novel. And because he had completely derailed the main plot between the hero, Leo, and the intended heroine, the entire narrative was collapsing. A system prompt appeared in his mind. This world will completely disintegrate in 7 days. 7 days. Ethan clenched his fists. Cold sweat trickling down his forehead. He had to find a way back to his own world before then. And more importantly, he couldn't leave Claire behind. The next morning, Ethan started calling in every favor he had, searching for a figure known only as the Broker, a legendary character whispered about among transmigrators. According to the system, he was the only one who could open a path back to reality. Mr. Ethan, the person you were looking for, has arrived, the butler announced respectfully. In the parlor, a middle-aged man in a strange flowing coat was casually sipping tea. When he saw Ethan, a cryptic smile played on his lips. "Mr. Hawthorne, I hear you're looking for the way home." Ethan's heart pounded. "You know about my situation?" "Of course." The broker set down his teacup. "Every traveler finds their way to me eventually. The question is, what are you willing to pay?" "Anything," Ethan said without a second hesitation. The broker gave him a long, meaningful look. "Including all the wealth you've accumulated in this world?" "Yes, including your status as Ethan Hawthorne, second son of the dynasty." "No problem." The broker suddenly smiled. "One last question. Are you certain you won't bring the girl? She's a native of this world. Taking her with you will consume double the energy." Ethan's gaze was unwavering. "I have to take her with me. Even if she might be erased during the transit, even if she can't adapt to the real world, I will protect her. I'll help her adapt." Ethan's voice was low and resolute. "She's the most precious thing I've found in this world. I'm not leaving her behind." The broker was silent for a moment, then finally nodded. "Very well. 3 days from now, at midnight, bring her to the old clock tower on the edge of town. And remember, you only get one shot." After the broker left, Ethan began his preparations immediately. He liquidated all his real estate and stocks, converting everything into gold bars, the only currency that would retain its value during the transit. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Claire had appeared at the door to his study, her eyes wide with confusion as she stared at the piles of gold and stacks of documents. Ethan waved her over. "Claire, I have something important to tell you." He quickly explained the situation, that their world was collapsing, and that they had to leave. When he finished, Claire's face was pale with shock. "So, you're not really from this world? You're going to leave me?" "Yes, I'm from another world," Ethan said, taking her cold hands in his. "But what I feel for you is real. I want to take you with me. Will you come?" A storm of emotions crossed her face. Shock, confusion, fear, all of it finally settling into a look of absolute trust. "As long as I can be with you, Ethan, I'll go anywhere." For the next 3 days, they prepared in secret. Ethan packed the gold in his specially designed money belts while Claire gathered a few small keepsakes that held meaning for them. But on the night before their departure, disaster struck. "Ethan, get out of here." Leo burst into the villa with a team of bodyguards, his face a mask of cold fury. "Leo." Ethan pulled Claire behind him. "What's going on? You have the nerve to ask?" Leo sneered. "I found out you sold off all your assets. Were you planning, Ethan? Running away?" Ethan's stomach dropped. He hadn't expected to be discovered at the last minute. "This has nothing to do with you." "Nothing to do with me?" The system using Leo as its puppet let out a chilling laugh. "Traveler, did you think your illegal crossing would go unnoticed? Especially since you're trying to abduct a native of this world." He pointed a finger at Claire. "She stays here." Claire gripped Ethan's arm, her eyes wide with terror. "No, I don't want to stay." Ethan patted her hand reassuringly, then turned to his brother, or rather the entity controlling him. "System, this world is about to collapse. Instead of stopping us, maybe you should figure out how to save yourself." "Nonsense. The narrative is eternal." Leo roared, his belief absolute. "Men, separate them. Claire Miller stays." The bodyguard surged forward. Ethan pushed Claire behind him, trying to fend them off, but he was outnumbered. Within moments, they had him restrained. 2 other guards grabbed Claire, who struggled wildly. "Let me go." "Ethan." "Claire." Ethan fought against his captors, but it was no use. In that desperate moment, Claire's eyes turned ice cold. She suddenly ducked her head and bit down hard on the hand of the guard holding her. He helped in pain and let go. In that split second, she was free. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, gleaming pocket knife. "Don't you dare hurt him!" she shrieked, her voice inhumanly sharp, her eyes blazing with a terrifying manicolite. "If anyone touches him, I'll kill you." Everyone froze, stunned by her sudden, violent transformation. Claire stood before Ethan like a cornered wolf. Knife held aloft, radiating pure danger. "Claire, calm down," Ethan said softly, trying to reach her. "Put the knife down." "No." Tears streamed down her face. "They're trying to take you from me. I won't let them." Even Leo was shaken. "She's lost her mind. She's completely insane." Seizing the opportunity, Ethan slammed an elbow into the guard holding him, breaking free. He rushed to Claire's side and gently took the knife from her hand. "That's enough, Claire. We're leaving." He grabbed her hand and they bolted from the villa, jumping into the car he had waiting behind them. He could hear Leo's enraged shouts and the footsteps of the guards, but it was too late. The old clock tower. Go! Ethan yelled at the driver. In the car, Claire was still trembling, the madness in her eyes slowly receding, replaced by a deep-seated fear. Ethan, was I scary just now? Ethan pulled her into his arms. No, you were just terrified. I get it. You're not disgusted with me. Never, he said, kissing her forehead. I love you, no matter what you are. She clung to him as if he were the only solid thing in a collapsing universe. The old clock tower loomed against the moonlight, looking particularly grim. The broker was already there, standing next to a bizarre door frame that pulsed with a ghostly blue light. Just in time, the broker said, checking a pocket watch. Ready? Ethan nodded, securing the belt of gold and checking Claire's. Remember, the broker said sternly. During the transit, no matter what you see or hear, do not let go of each other. If you get separated, you'll be lost forever. Ethan laced his fingers through Claire's. We won't be separated. Good luck then. The broker activated the device. The blue light in the doorway intensified, swirling into a vortex. Ethan took a deep breath and, pulling Claire with him, stepped into the light. The world dissolved into a chaotic spin. Fragments of memories flashed past them. Claire's abusive childhood. Her fear when she first met him. The night they cried in each other's arms. The manic glint in her eyes when her possessiveness took over. Hold on, Ethan yelled over the howling wind. I won't let go. Claire's voice was nearly lost, but her grip was like a vice. Suddenly, a blinding white light engulfed them. Ethan felt a searing pain, as if his body was being torn apart and stitched back together. His last conscious thought was of the small, soft hand he was holding on to for dear life. Beep, beep, beep. The rhythmic sound of a hospital monitor. Ethan forced his eyes open, greeted by a sterile white ceiling and the smell of antiseptic. I'm back. He tried to move his fingers and realized his right hand was being held tightly by something warm. He turned his head. A familiar figure was slumped in a chair beside his bed, fast asleep. It was Claire. She had made it. She was really here with him. As if sensing his movement, Claire's head snapped up, her eyes wide with relief. Enjoy. Ethan, you're awake. Her voice brought a doctor and nurse rushing in. After a quick examination, the doctor announced that Ethan was only suffering from mild dehydration and could be discharged in a few days. You two were incredibly lucky, the doctor said with a smile. To be in a coma for 3 days after a car crash like that and walk away with barely a scratch is a miracle. A car crash? Ethan understood. The system had provided them with a cover story, a plausible entry into this new reality. After the medical staff left, Claire collapsed into his arms, sobbing like a child. I thought I'd lost you during the transit. You were unconscious for so long. Silly girl. I promised I'd never leave you. Ethan whispered, stroking her back, feeling the solid warmth of her body, the steady beat of her heart against his. He glanced around and saw 2 belts on the bedside table filled with gold bars. The broker had kept his word. After being discharged, Ethan cashed in the gold for a substantial starter fund and rented a comfortable apartment. Claire was fascinated by everything in this new world, but her old anxiety still lingered. Her possessive streak hadn't vanished just because they changed universes. When one of Ethan's old college friends, a woman, came over to work on a group project, Claire's eyes took on that familiar, dangerous glint. Why was she sitting so close to you? She demanded afterward, biting her lip. Ethan knew this would be a long-term battle. He found a good therapist for Claire and began studying psychology himself, working tirelessly to help her build a true sense of security. Claire, love isn't about possession, he would often tell her. Real love is about giving the other person freedom and trusting the choice you both made. Slowly, with Ethan's unwavering patience and support, Claire's obsessive tendencies began to soften. She started making her own friends. She even joined a peer support group at a local community college, using her own story of overcoming trauma to help others. A year later, on a warm spring evening, Ethan took Claire to the beach. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he got down on one knee and pulled out a diamond ring. Claire Miller, we may have come from different worlds, but my heart will always belong to you. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face, but for the first time, they were tears of pure, unadulterated happiness. Yes, she cried, throwing her arms around him. Yes, wherever you are, that's my home. The waves gently lapped at the shore, and the setting sun stretched their shadows long across the sand, until the 2 figures merged into one, just as their lives and their love had. crossing the boundary between fiction and reality to find their true beginning.